Alright guys, so today we're going to learn how to factor trinomials, and basically what we're looking to do is what's called either the AC method or the Ma chart method. They're the same thing. And what we want to do is, if we do the Ma chart, we want to multiply the first coefficient times our constant. That's going to be our m. Well, since there's no coefficient here, we know we can put a 1. 1 times 16 is 16. So right here for the m, I'm going to put 16. Now to find your a, you're just always going to pick your middle coefficient. So my a here is 10. And what I need to do is find two numbers that multiply to be 16. So let's list all of them. We've got 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And don't forget, you've also got negative 1, negative 16, negative 2, negative 8, negative 4, and negative 4. So we also have the negatives of that. So all of those multiply to be 16. Now we need to figure out which one adds to be 10. Let's see, 1 plus 16 is 17. 2 plus 8 is 10. There we go. We found the one that'll work. We don't need to fill out the rest. There will only be one pair that works. 2 and 8. So now I'm going to turn this middle term into 2x and 8x. So I get that from the 2 and the 8. Now we can do this because 2 plus 8 is 10. Now we fill out the rest. 1x to the second and 8x plus 16. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and split this into two parts. This is called factoring by grouping. So we group it into pairs of 2. Now I just need to figure out, well, what's the GCF of this. And if you remember from last week, we learned about GCF. That's where you just list all of the numbers that multiply to be 1 and 2. Let's see, that's 1 times 1, and 2 is 1 times 2. What's the biggest number they both have? 1. So that's going to go on the outside. Then we've got x squared, which is x times x, and x. So what's the biggest number of x's you can take out? 1. So we've got 1x on the outside. Now to see what's left over, I've got 1x and positive 2. Now we want to go ahead and list the numbers that multiply to be 8. 1 and 8, 2 and 4, and the numbers that multiply to be 16. 1, 16, 2, 8, 4, and 4. And again, we want to find the biggest number they both have. Well, I see an 8. So now I've got an 8 on the outside. But now I've got to deal with the x. Well, this is just, let's put it over here. Sorry, I ran out of room. So I've got x, but this has nothing. So I can't take anything out of that. So what do I have left over? Well, 1, x, and 2. Now if you do this correctly, these should be the same. If they're the same, we're going to write it out in front. I'm done with these. And now we just check what's left over. Well, 1x plus 8. And there you go. You factored it. All right, let's look at another. So again, you're creating a mod chart. Now, some people call this the AC method. It's the same thing. We multiply the first 1 times the last 14. 1 times 14 is 14. Remember, your A is just your middle. All right. So I start listing all the numbers that multiply to be 14. 1, 14, 2, and 7. But don't forget also negative 1 and negative 14, negative 2 and negative 7. Now I just need to see what those add to be. 1 plus 14 is 15, 2 plus 7 is 9. And remember, once you find the one that works, you can go ahead and stop. All right, well, we can change 9x to 2x plus 7x. Everything else stays the same. And now I just break down the first two and the last two. Let's see, 1 is 1 times 1. X squared is x times x. 2 is 1 times 2 and x. Now we're looking for the biggest number in both. Looks like it's 1. That goes outside. And how many x's can I take out of each? 1. And what do I have left over? 1x and positive 2. Same thing over here. 1 times 7 and x. 14 is 1 times 14 or 2 times 7. And again, you're looking for the biggest thing you can take out of both. Well, looks like I can take out a 7. That goes outside. Can I take an x out of each of these? No. So what do I have left over? Well, 1x and positive 2. Again, if you did it right, these should be the same. We're going to write that in front. We're done with it, so we cross it out. And what's left over? 1x and positive 7. Now, some of these can get a little more difficult, but it's still the same process every time. So here we go. 1 times 12 is 12. Your A is negative 8. Remember, this is MA. So I just start listing numbers that multiply to be 12. 1 and 12. 2 and 6. 3 and 4. But don't forget, also the negatives. Negative 1, negative 12. Negative 2, negative 6. Negative 3, negative 4. Now, some of you will know right away without having to do all this extra work what works. Some of you won't. That's okay. Just start adding these together. 13, 8, 7, negative 13, negative 8. Oh, there it is. All right, we're done. We don't need to do the last one. We found the ones that worked. So we break this down. Negative 2x, negative 6x, positive 12, 1x to the second. Group the first two, group the last two. 1 is 1 times 1. X squared is x times x. Negative 2x, we don't really worry about that. It's just 1 and 2. And x. So it's going to keep its sign. So we're not going to really worry about that. So here we go. Biggest is 1. X. Left over is 1. X minus 2. Over here, 6 is 1 times 6, or 2 times 3. X is just x. 12 is 1 times 12. 2 times 6, 3 times 4. So what's the biggest we have in each of those? 6. So that's going to go outside. Can I take an x out of both? No. So I'm left with 1x. But it's a negative 1x because this is still negative. Positive 6. Oh. sorry, I already took out the 6, so I should have a positive 2. Now again, these should be the same. But they're not quite the same. Now notice that this is a positive 1 and this is a negative 1. A negative 2 and a positive 2. So it looks like they're opposites. So to fix that, if this is a positive, I just need to change it to its opposite. Now if this is negative, remember, that changes all of the signs after. Now do I have something that's the same? I do. So that goes out in front. Cross it out, you're done. And we write what's left over. And we're finished. Alright, let's look at another one of those. Remember, Ma chart. 1 times 27. 27. Your A is always the middle. See, 27. 1 times 27. 3 times 9. But also, -1, -27, -3, -9. Add those together. 28, 12, -28, -12. Now I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, just so this video doesn't take all day to make. So here we go. 1x to the second minus 3x minus 9x plus 27. 1 is 1 times 1, x times x, 1 times 3, and x. So I've got 1x. Left over is 1x and -3. Alright, 9 is 1 times 9, or 3 times 3. 27 is 1 times 27, or 3 times 9. This is 9x. This is just 27. So the biggest is 9. So I have left over -1x and 3. Now again, these should be the same, but they're not. So I have to change this sign from a positive to a negative, which will then change this to positive and negative. Now are they the same? Yes, so that goes out in front. And we just have 1x minus 9 left over. And we're done. So, this seems difficult at first, but it's kind of just a repetitive process. If you need to do this, great. Some of you guys will just be able to do this part in your head, and that's totally okay. But the more you practice it, the faster you'll get. So let's look at our last two. Still same process. 1 times -21, -21. That's your M. Your A is always just the middle term. So let's start listing them. -1 times 21. 1 times -21. 3 times 7 is 21, but they need to be negative. So how about -3? 3 times 7 is 21. Now the problem is, if I make this negative, well, that's the same as the one we just did. So I need to put the negative on the 7. That's everything. So let's add these. -1 plus 21 is 20. 1 plus -21 is -20. -3 plus 7 is 4. Oh, there we go. We found it. So 1x to the second minus 3x plus 7x minus 21. Group the first two. And I'm just going to kind of speed through this last process because it's the same as what we've been seeing. 1 times 1, x times x. 1 times 3, x. So the biggest is 1x. That goes outside. Looks like I have left over 1x. negative 3. Over here, 1 times 7 and x. 1 times 21, 3 times 7. So it looks like it's 7. Positive x, or positive 1x, sorry, and negative 3. Are these the same? They are, so that goes out in front. We're done with it. What's left over? 1x and positive 7. All right, last one. Let's see how quickly we can do this. We make our mod chart. We multiply the first and the last. Negative 8, our a is the middle. Let's see, 8 is 1 times 8, but it needs to be negative 8. So this needs to be a negative 1. 1 times 8 also works, but this needs to be negative. If I put the negative on the 1, then it's the same as what I just did. 8 is also 2 times 4. But it's negative 2 times 4 to give us negative 8. 2 times 4 with a negative. All right, negative 1 plus 8 is 7. Well, that was lucky. It was the first one we did. So I've got 1x squared minus 1x plus 8x minus 8. Group the first two. 1 is 1 times 1. X times x is x squared. 1 is 1 times 1 and x. So it looks like we've got 1x for both of these. That goes outside. Left over is 1x minus 1. Let's see, 8 is 1 times 8, 2 times 4. X is just x. 8 is 1 times 8, 2 times 4. Our biggest is 8. And now we've got 1x minus 1. If these are the same, great. If not, remember you can change this sign. But if they're the same, write it out in front. And write what's left. 1x plus 8. All right. Well, that's factoring trinomials. Next week, we'll look at some ones that are just a little more difficult. But as always, if you've got questions, reach out. I hope you enjoyed this video because I know I enjoyed making it. Hope you guys are staying safe. Really missing you lately. And I guess I'll see you in August.